Yeah. So the solution, I don't want to just say the problem here. I'm about giving solutions. This is what I'm about. So what's the solution? Dissolve the ego. How do we dissolve the ego? We have to surrender. We have to surrender to... We have to surrender this ego. And the process of surrendering the ego is one of coming home to yourself, is one of self-acceptance, true self-acceptance of who is eternal. Some may call it soul. In Buddhism, they have no concept of a soul. They will say the beginningless mind, awareness, consciousness. This is who you truly are, which is beyond the addiction, which is beyond the alcoholism, which is beyond the ego. You see, this pure awareness is only attained through meditation. We experience this pure awareness. We experience this dissolving of the ego all the time, though. You've experienced it all the time. Your hobby, your passion. When you're doing this, you become completely identified with what it is that you are doing, and in the process you forget yourself. By forgetting yourself, I'm not talking your true self, I'm talking the ego. It's like I'm here at this Alcohol Anonymous meeting and everyone break smoking. Why? Because they can become completely identified with the smoking and these pleasures they believe it brings to them, that they forget their problems. They forget. It's a process of forgetting themselves, of self-distraction. However, it never brings them to a state where they're always like this, where they're always not coming from the ego, where they're always their true self, understanding that they are just the pure awareness, illuminating what is there, but not grasping, not believing that they are this. They are not living a rigid, a life of boundaries, a life of they have accepted who they are, and this is their potential, and this is where they have to live through and build boundaries, limitations, so that they can live in control and in peace and in harmony with this being, this ego, this self that is an addict. This is the difference. And this is why we need to look at meditation. What is meditation? Look at my other video on what meditation is, how to practice meditation, how to surrender the ego, how to end the mental continuum of negative thoughts, self-defeating thoughts, delusions, attachments, which our mind is continuously playing in our mind, in ourselves, because we have practiced it for eons and eons and eons. We have practiced it, but it's not you. You are beyond it. You see, something that works for me is, or something that empowered me to believe that we are so much greater than this potential that we limit ourselves to, is this simple fact. I went through a serious depression where all I could think about is a regret and guilt, over a situation in my life. Every day, every moment of my life, every moment I thought of the person who I hurt. I thought about how horrible of an action it was, and I lived my life through this every single moment of my life for over a year. But one day I changed. I looked at myself positively. I looked at the situation as an experience which had been learned, and I promised myself to not relive it. So I saw the positive there. That's the difference. That's the change. And because I know how ingrained I was in this negative train of thought, why can't I live positively like this? Always seeing the positive. It is possible. Yes, we are here. We are seeing the negative now. This is all we are seeing, with sometimes seeing the positive, right? It's coming through. But no. We have been so concentrated on the negative before, or whatever a certain thought is. Why can't it be positive? Why can't it be introspective? Why can't it be finding the solution rather than seeing the problem and living through this? Why can't we believe in ourselves and our pure potential of infinite success, of internal joy? This is possible. This is what Buddhism teaches. This is what Vedanta teaches. This is what is taught in the East. But here in the West, no. Here in the West, they accept you're gonna live like this. Here in the West, they don't live the true self wherein you can always be in peace, be in harmony, be in control. No. Here, they play the victim. They say that these negative thoughts are part of life. We all experience them. Well, I'll tell you something. I spent time in a Buddhist monastery, and I hear stories of women from Tibet being raped for years, tortured for years. And when they come out, people ask them, how mad are you at these people? What are your thoughts? And they have no anger. They have complete compassion. Imagine this. Imagine living this way. Imagine seeing what is and what is not. Imagine the changes in your life for yourself and for others. So we must shed the ego. We must rid ourselves of this limited self, this limited perspective wherein we see everything. We see ourselves here, the world here, us against the world, and arrogantly work for the world, grasping at things, working for money, etc., 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 instead of working harmoniously, wisely with it. Instead of coming from a state of fulfillment, we work for fulfillment. This is the mistake. So here's a tip. Here's another tip. I'm all about giving you guys tips. Tips, 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 tips. I'm not here about talking about the problem. Yes, we'll state the problem, but I'm going to give you the means to solve the problem now. So, when you're going through an emotion, we must come back to this pure awareness. This awareness which is beyond the problem, beyond the attachment, which in the AA approach they do not talk about. So how do we do this? We sit quietly in meditation and we visualize ourselves at the edge of a river wherein the river is our thoughts. It's this negative attachment, addiction, or they're synonymous. We're all addicts in our own way, but this is another discussion. Anyways, so you're sitting at the river's edge and you create cognitive space because you recognize that you are the observer of this thought, of this emotion. And in doing and realizing this, you recognize that you are not it. You are not the river. You are observing. You are the awareness. This is our true self, which always exists, is this awareness. So we sit on the wall comfortably at the edge. Yes, feel your emotion. Your emotion is valid. You need to feel it. You need to experience it. Please do this. I'm not shutting down emotions. I'm showing how to understand them and to go beyond. So we're sitting at this edge of the river, watching the thought go by, not falling into the river and getting sucked down by the current of our emotion. No, much rather, we stay aware, we stay present, and we let the river go by. And this mental continuum of our mind will change. As is said, this too shall pass, this emotion shall pass. Knowing this, we have peace, we have harmony. We create the cognitive space needed. What it is, this is the teaching, church. What I'm saying here is this awareness, what I'm speaking about, this real self, is that because during waking, during dreaming, during sleeping states, it always, it's not here. I should not point to the mind. It always exists. How is this so? Because we're awake, we know very much so we are the doer, we are the enjoyer. When we're dreaming, we know we are the enjoyer, we're not so much the doer. While we're asleep, we're gone. We're gone from this body. We're gone from this ego completely. It is dissolved. However, we are still aware. How are we still aware? Because when we wake up, we say, I know I was sleeping. If you were not still aware, you would not. It would just be a blank. This is the difference.